brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Now it's sippin' time.
Hello and welcome to this Sips episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. As always, we are the best thing on at 2 a.m. This is a 1-hour show that's allegedly entertaining for 22 minutes. We are banned in 6 cities, 3 states, and we've been asked not to return to the local mall for putting slinkies on the escalators.
Don't we have a right to face our accusers? Who's alleging this?
I was actually evicted from a store for doing that. They said it wouldn't work. We put 30 of them on there and watched it for 5 minutes. It was awesome. Security guard came up and said, "Gentlemen, we need to have you leave." And I said, "Okay, but come on." And the security guy looks and goes, "Yeah, it's awesome." So, all right, this is Made Man Bob, and joining me today are Made Man Maury.
Good morning, Bob. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I love the Irish theme we've created in the basement today.
Isn't it nice? And good old boy Justin.
Good morning, Bob. Top of the morning to you.
Welcome to the basement. And Mr. Happy Harmeet.
Potatoes everywhere.
Oh, God. All right. Well, Maury and myself are with the Bourbon Mafia. The Bourbon Mafia is a non-profit organization composed of bourbon enthusiasts and industry professionals. With representation in 8 states, our members combine a love of bourbon with a passion for charitable work. The group uses their love of our native spirit to raise money for local and national charities through rare bottle auctions and other themed events. Check us out on Facebook at The Bourbon Mafia. And our show is sponsored in part by Fine Spirits of Cooper City, Florida, home of the Enigmatic Machine, serving great wines, whiskeys, and other spirits by the glass. You can find them at where?
www.finespirits.net or facebook.com/finespirits.
There you go.
Roll Tide.
And our show is also sponsored in part by the Florida Whiskey Society. To find out more about the society and their events, you can visit us at ftlws.com.
Or on Facebook, Fort Lauderdale Whiskey Society.
There you go. Or on the bathroom wall in pretty much any bar in the South Florida region. But, yeah.
Well, we took over a bar last night in South Florida.
Well, we went in and erased where it says Maury's name and for a good time call. Our sip segments are all about wine, distilled spirits, tea, and coffee. Today's show is a takeover show, and we are going to be talking about Irish whiskey. Come on, quiet man.
You guys, you couldn't find better Irish music?
No, I can find that silly Irish music, you know. I don't want to deal with that. Doesn't matter. You don't like John Wayne? Come on, man.
Don't talk over the music. I was enjoying it.
You're killing me.
All right, we're going to cover some background on the brands that we're going to be tasting, as well as, just about Irish whiskey in general. And our samples today were graciously provided to us by Michael Egan from Beam Suntory. And here's a short list of what we're going to be tasting today. We've got Tyroconnell 10-year original. We've got Tyroconnell 10-year sherry finish. We've got Tyroconnell 10-year Madeira finish. Tyroconnell 10-year port finish, and Tyroconnell 16-year limited edition.
Nice.
So,
you always say it's a short list, but isn't it just the list?
No, because we've had a longer list. When we did 4 roses, we did 10.
Yeah.
And when we did John Milroy, I think we did 8 or 9. So, yeah, this is a short list for us.
Well,
are you kidding?
I think this is good. I think this is a good number.
What these two knuckleheads had last night at the bar, this is a very short list. This is the first 20 minutes after they walked into the place.
It's so much cheaper being able to, come to the show and not having to hire a lift or something.
Speaking of Mr. Happy, why don't we have Maury tell us a little bit about the history of Tyroconnell?
Thank you, Bob. The Tyroconnell traces its roots back to 1876 when R.M. Delamere entered his horse named Tyroconnell in the National Produce Stakes horse race. Tyrconnell raced his way to a surprise victory, and a local family of distillery owners, the Watts family, chose to commemorate the occasion by creating a limited edition small batch whiskey named after that famous horse. Originally intended to be a one-time only release, the Tyrconnell became their most popular whiskey. In the years before Prohibition, the Tyrconnell was said to be the best-selling Irish whiskey in the United States. Sadly, with the advent of Prohibition, the brand was discontinued. Luckily for all of us, when Dr. John Teeling recommissioned the Cooley Irish Whiskey Distillery, the Tyrconnell was one of the Irish whiskey brands that Cooley brought back into production. Today, each bottle still bears the same commemorative label celebrating Tyrconnell's historic victory. In the Irish language, the word Tyrconnell comes from Tyr, meaning land of, and Conneall, the name of a king of the northwest of Ireland back in the 5th century. He was the son of the famous Niall of the 9 hostages. The kingdom survived until 1601 and covered the modern-day county of Donegal and large portions of the surrounding counties. Unlike most Irish whiskey, which is traditionally triple distilled, the Tyrconnell is a double distilled Irish single malt whiskey. The makers feel that the double distillation lets the Tyrconnell retain more of its character and flavor. Today, the Cooley Irish Whiskey Distillery and their brands, including the Tyrconnell, are now owned by Beam Suntory. And that's some information on the history of Tyrconnell. Now I'm going to let Bob tell you a little bit more about our SIPS ratings in his best Irish accent.
Nice. Bob hasn't done one of these in a long time. Bring it, Bobby Joe.
All right, we're going to be tasting, discussing these whiskeys, and rating them with our 6 ratings and our signature sounds. And here they are now. Number 1. Give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
Gangadine, water. Gangadine, bring water. Bring water.
I feel you needed to warm up a little bit, but go ahead.
I don't think that man's from Ireland. Number 2. Nice, but what else do you have?
Well, isn't that nice?
3 sips. Interesting. What else is this again?
Interesting.
4 sips.
When you speak like an Irishman, you can't read.
I can't read because I can't do 2 things at one time. Let's keep a secret this to ourselves. Pour me another.
That's classified.
And 5 sips. I know where the IRA is hidden. Oh, sorry. Wrong one. 5 sips. Oh my, I was unaware anything could be this good except blue clovers and green stars.
Oh my goodness.
Yes! Yes!
Oh,
Yes!
we're going to get hate mail.
You're always after me, Lucky Charms.
All right, Bob, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. How about we have Justin introduce our first product for this morning?
The first product we'll review is the Tyrconnell Original 10-year. It's 40% alcohol by volume. It's got a light color.
By Valium?
By volume.
Yeah.
Or volume.
You've been drinking, haven't you?
A little bit. And I had the notes that it was a floral nose, and it was really good malty on the front end, and the burn was light on the first sip. But on the second and third sips, it grew and grew like an Irish rose. And I felt a lot of the flavor on the sides of my tongue. And the more you drink, the sweeter it gets. I give it 3 sips.
Interesting.
How old was that again?
10-year.
10 years, man! 10! Where have you been for 10 years?
Just saying.
What movie is that from?
Gross Point Blank. What's wrong with you?
Dude, it's so long. I haven't seen that since it came to the theaters, man.
Oh, Lord. Heathen. All right, Maury, what'd you think?
Well, I think it's a very well-made whiskey. It's very light in color for me. I found it to be have a light, pleasant nose with a hint of malt, but a relatively unassuming nose. On the palate, it's got some nice viscosity. It's a relatively lightweight whiskey. It's got a lot of the traditional flavors you get in Irish whiskey. I didn't get much burn at all. I do think it's light, smooth, relatively sweet, has a short finish. like a lot of Irish whiskeys, I think this is a good example. They tend to be less complex and more one note than, say, Scottish whiskeys. And I thought this was a pretty nice example of an entry-level Irish whiskey. I gave it a solid 2 sips.
Well, isn't that nice?
All right, Harm, what'd you think?
Well, thanks, Bob. The color again, nothing special. It's a pale gold. It's Irish whiskey. The nose, I got that a grassy, malty nose, a little bit of honey, slight bit of nectarine at the end, which was surprising. A lot of Irish whiskeys to me, I get banana, and later I think I'll see we'll get examples of that. I didn't get that banana or tropical note, but almost like a peach or nectarine at the very end of this one. And the palate was very smooth, sweet, some good fruit, but not much. A little bit of vanilla. The finish had a little bit of pepper, and I thought it was a little drying oak, but not a lot. Again, it's only 40 proof, but it's Irish whiskey, and it's pretty good Irish whiskey. So I just gave it 2 sips.
Well, isn't that nice?
All right. Well, yeah, I agree with you. It's a nice pale straw color. On the nose, I'm getting pears. It's a very fresh, clean scent. It's a very clean spirit. I get some citrus. I get some spice in the back end. I added water to it. It really didn't help much.
Could you use a little water in your whiskey?
When I drink whiskey, I drink whiskey. And when I drink water, I drink water.
Yeah, I'm with him.
Yeah, especially the Irish.
Light vanilla on the finish. Overall, I mean, a well-made whiskey, definitely an entry-level whiskey. I give it a solid 3.
I was really surprised with this one because we were talking about Tyroconnell being double distilled rather than triple distilled. I was expecting a little more of the heavier fusel oils and a little bit of more flavor from a double distilled whiskey.
I agree with you, and I'm surprised not to see that.
It's got to be the type of stills they're using,
And we'll be back.
Rolling clouds and crashing surf, iridescent dunes reflecting by the light of a rising, glowing moon. Seashore mesmerizing, night breeze hypnotizing. We've come across these back roads none too soon. Look to the left, to the right. Keep your eyes on the road, my darling. Wondering if we're only passing through. Open roads and open windows. My hand is yours forever, sweet love.
And we're back, and we're discussing Tyroconnell Irish whiskey. So we're going on to the next one. Why don't we have Maury introduce that one?
Thank you, Bob. The next whiskey is the Tyroconnell Sherry Finish 10-year. It collects in, like most, if not all, of their cask finish whiskeys at 46% ABV. This whiskey's got a nice color. It's definitely got a little more copper to it. It's not quite as pale and straw colored as the original. Still on the scale of things compared to many other whiskeys, it is a light color, but it does pick up a little bit more, probably from the sherry butts that they're using. On the nose, definitely get a little more complexity, definitely getting some sherry notes, and of course some maltiness. On the palate, it's a nice whiskey. It's got a little bit more viscosity. It's got a little more mouth coating. Definitely getting some sherry notes. Definitely getting some toffee and vanilla and things of that nature. I think it's a very, very well-made whiskey. It's got a nice finish. It's got a pleasant finish. It's, I would say, moderate to long finish. Very, very nice effort. And on that, I gave it 4 sips.
It's a big jump from the 10-year-old.
No, we know about you and 10-year-olds. So.
I demand the right to face my accusers, Bob.
10 years!
There are too many to face, Harm.
Jeez.
All right,
possibly face them
Justin,
all.
what'd you think?
I thought that it was very sweet. It had a longer finish compared to the other Tyroconnells we tried today. And I gave it a solid 3 sips.
Man, that was short. Hold on, I'm not ready.
Interesting.
Words, we use them.
Well, here, I've got some words. I actually tasted this originally, and I gave it a different review than what I just after retasting. The color, again, Maury went over it.
Did it get better or worse, Harmeet?
It got better. That's why I was...
Okay, then I'll let you talk. If it got worse, I was just...
Yeah, no. This is better. This is better. So, the color. I went with a delicate rose gold, but not that BS rose gold they called for Apple calls rose gold. That's just pink. This is a true rose gold, and it was pretty. The nose I got originally, I had butterscotch and berry flavors, berry nose with candied plum. Now after breathing, it's completely different. Now I'm getting more of that toffee and black raisins and a little bit of a spice coming out. It's changed. Air really improved this whiskey quite a bit. On the palate, candied fruit, raisin, burnt sugar. Another taste. And none of that horrible sulfur you get in some of these people use sherry barrels that have been preserved with sulfur candles to keep bacterial growth down. Looks like they're filling these barrels fairly quickly. I'm not getting any bad sulfur notes at all. The finish with air, it went from originally I had oaky with a slightly bitter finish. With air, that's all mellowed out. The finish is smooth and sweet and long, and just very pretty. I went from originally 2 sips to 4 sips on this whiskey.
Kudos.
That's classified.
That's actually where I was as well. I initially tasted it and was a little off-put. Didn't find it initially to be much more complex than the first whiskey. And then I think you're right. I didn't add any water to it.
No.
But definitely air, definitely time, definitely coming back to it after trying some of the other offerings. I agree. I bumped it up. I was on the fence, but I, as you know, gave it 4 sips as well. So
yeah,
kudos.
Today I didn't really add water to any of these, and normally I do add water, but at 46% ABV, I normally would add some water, but because it is an Irish and the character of this whiskey, I didn't do it this time. What do you think, Bob? Did you...
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Don't mind if you do.
I think it's got a lovely nose. The sherry notes on it are nice. I pick up raisins and currants. Just a hint of blackberry on it.
I don't get blackberry. I'll give you the currants and raisins.
You're on the very back end. And then, the oak on it. When we first opened the bottle, the oak was a little bit more present. Now it seems to have sort of went more to the back. I get a lot of ripe fruit in here, cinnamon spice on the back end. And I got to agree, this one, absolutely, when we first opened it, I liked it. But now that it's had a little bit of time to get some air, it's definitely went up. I give it a solid 4.
Nice.
That's classified.
It's rare for me to give our Irish whiskey a 4 sips, too. This is
unprecedented.
Yeah.
Don't be a hater. All right.
It's
your turn to do the next
IRA killed my family.
No, that was the IRS.
Yeah, the IRS took away my family.
No, that was INS.
Yeah. Oh, God. We're here legally. Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started on the.
Oh dear Lord!
If I start talking politics, I will be deported. Justin, are you doing the Madeira cask? What's going on
Our
here?
next product is the Tyroconnell Madeira 10-year. It's 46% alcohol by volume. All the Tyroconnells except for the original are like a darker gold, and this one's no exception. It definitely had strong Madeira on the nose, and the first time I tried it, it was pretty light, and then after a half hour of air, the Madeira really came through like a racehorse going for the Triple Crown. And
I think you mean the what was it called? The produce cup.
Yeah. I want a cup full of produce. Awesome. Yeah. It's Ireland. It was
the produce steaks.
It's Ireland. It was probably potatoes.
Cabbage, potatoes,
Produce
carrots. Come on.
steak. Produce steak. Is that like an oxymoron? Is that kind of like a vegan steak?
Spelling
Like jumbo shrimp.
Like a tomato steak.
Beefsteak tomatoes are just a disappointment to me. Who eats those?
They're good when you get good ones. They don't have them here.
No, they don't have good ones here. The texture is bad. The
ones here are awful.
Yeah, and
Every
there's no
decade,
real
they're
flavor to
losing
them.
Varieties of these things too.
I think this is called a rabbit hole. We did a distillery called a rabbit hole, but we've gone into a rabbit hole now. But we digress. Justin, you were saying something about whiskey.
Well, but more importantly, if I may interrupt.
No, we've already interrupted.
No, this is important.
It's a little late for that at this point.
Beefsteak tomatoes again?
Bob and I have single-handedly
Excellent.
introduced Justin to a pure, high-quality, 1-century-old Madeira. And now he speaks from a point of authority and reference. And I love his analogies about the Madeira racing through. Whereas before, if we'd have been doing this show maybe a month or two ago, he might have been making up what Madeira tasted like.
I'd have to because I hadn't
He
had it.
actually didn't say. He didn't actually say what Madeira tastes like. He just said it was Madeira.
It tastes like the hand of God, as best I can tell. That 1900 Madeira, that mom's me we
Was
had, was
spectacular.
For those who haven't had it, it's a very strong grape flavor.
117 years old and wasn't a hint of it starting to fade.
No, it was spectacular.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Show me on the doll where God touched you.
Right here on my tongue.
Anyway, I think for those of you listening, it is important. There are many people that have not really tried these cask spirits, such as sherry, and there are at least a half a dozen types of sherry. There are at least a half a dozen types of Madeira, and port. And there are a lot of people out there that just know Angel's Envy as being a port-finished whiskey, but maybe
they've
they've
never
never
had
tried
port.
port.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see Cabernet wine-finished whiskeys and various other wineries using their barrels. So I think it's interesting, and it gives people a note of a viewpoint from which to start, or a vantage point, if you've tried some of those underlying spirits. So I encourage any and all of you to go out there and try some ports, try some Madeiras, try some Cabernet wine if you haven't been a wine drinker. And I think it'll give you a new perspective on these whiskeys.
Absolutely right, Maury.
Thank you. Sorry to take your airtime.
The only thing I hadn't gone over is that the finish was longer when it started, and after some air, the finish shortened. Don't know why, but it was interesting.
All right.
How many sips?
Would you rate it?
I gave this one 3 sips.
Interesting.
Harm, what'd you think?
Well, I'm revisiting it because I wasn't as impressed as Justin was. So let me revisit.
Would you like me to talk about it while you're revisiting?
Go ahead. You talk about that.
I'll be short and sweet.
Go ahead,
because
Mr.
I've already.
You've never been. Your wife told me otherwise, but
Thanks.
Yeah.
Friends like
I
you,
don't want.
who needs enemies?
This is a family show.
That's
I don't
her
want to hear what his
nickname.
wife.
That's her nickname for it, short and sweet.
Oh God.
I love Madeira finished whiskeys. I do love Madeira, as we just talked about. And I had high hopes for this whiskey. I was expecting to like it better than the sherry finish. I will say the sherry was extremely well made. And although this one is well made, the Madeira kind of really wasn't all that for me. I thought the Madeira was light on the nose, but present, even more light on the palate. Finish was short, and I agree that air definitely shortened up the finish. It's a well-made whiskey. It's a nice whiskey. It's a little different than the average run-of-the-mill unfinished Irish whiskey. And by the way, this is the first set of Irish whiskeys that I've seen that are finished in various cask finishes. Traditionally, Irish whiskey is just Irish whiskey with various ages. So I think it's a really nice effort. I like what they're doing. I love the series. Between the two, I would definitely choose the sherry over the Madeira. I gave the Madeira a solid 3 sips.
Interesting.
Okay, it's good old boy Harmeet here. I came back to it, and I agree with you guys. The finish did disappear. But on the nose, I got more traditional at first. I got more traditional Irish whiskey nose. I had bananas and brown sugar. Some of that same nectarine came out. Later, the Madeira started coming out. And I got tropical fruit, golden raisin coming in. And the palate was smooth, and it just wasn't spectacular, though. The finish had pepper, a little bit dry oak on it. But now after air, it's just so short, kind of finished a little bit bitter to me. And I think I actually liked it before we let it air out, and I gave it 3 sips for that.
Interesting.
Bobby Joe?
I don't notice a difference on the, I don't notice much of a difference on the finish. Oh, there goes the phone.
I think the Madeira police is calling us.
Yeah, I definitely,
That's the distillery calling us, say we got a bad batch. They want to replace this bottle.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely the air affected the finish on it. I think the finish was a little bit better when we first opened it up, but I am enjoying this one. It's perplexing to me. It's not, when I've had Madeira finished whiskeys in the past, it's more of a Madeira finish. It's more of that raisiny sort of grapey kind of finish. And this honestly hit me more almost like a sherry type. I'm detecting the wine in it, but it's not. It leans more away from. I don't know what kind of Madeira they use. Maybe it was a Verdelho, maybe it was an Amalfi, so it was something that was on the drier as opposed to the sweeter side. But it wasn't what I was expecting. That being said, I thought it was extremely well made.
I just poured some more. I think it's definitely better out of the bottle.
Yeah. It's the Madeira notes are light on it. I pick up some very nice rich honey on it and some orange notes.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of citrus, and I give it a solid 3.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you didn't know better, you could actually mistake it for sherried whiskey. It definitely has more sherry than Madeira.
And I think what that may be,
style.
I don't.
Madeira style.
Well, I don't know. It may be. There are very different. There are several different types of Madeira. There's Malmsey, there's Verdelho. And that's what I'm thinking is maybe they're doing this with the drier type of Madeira as opposed to the heavier, sweeter type of Madeira, and that's what's throwing me off because maybe that's more of what people have been doing. I was expecting more of that sweetness, grapiness, and I wasn't getting it.
I tend to prefer sherry over Madeira, but the wines.
Yeah.
But doesn't Madeira usually have a little higher acidity?
Yeah.
I'm not detecting any of that here.
No.
I've had some higher acidity in some Madeira finish scotches, so you can actually tell. But I think it's just the barrel they used.
Agreed.
All right. Well, that brings us up to our next one. So, Harm, why don't you tell us what you think about it?
Well, this one I actually enjoyed quite a bit more than that Madeira finish. This is the port finish. Tyroconnell port finish, 10-year-old, 46% ABV. Again, that same rose gold color. Much more intense red fruit than we got on the sherry. There's that hint of banana. Let me just go ahead and pour some more too. Why not? It was a very smooth entry. Thank you. On the finish, on the palate, I got the fruit and a little bit of what's it? Is that plum or cherry? What is that?
I think it's a little hint of both.
Yeah, and there's some chocolate there too. Some nice. And the finishes here on the port is longer than the others we've had today. It's not quite as sweet. It's actually more balanced.
I think it's the longest finished of any of the whiskeys we reviewed so far.
This is solid 4 sips for me. I just really enjoyed this one. And I'm not usually a port guy.
All right, Maury, what'd you think?
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I have to agree with Harmeet. I think it's a very well-made whiskey. It's got really nice balance to it. It's not overly finished, but there's definitely port notes on the nose. There's definitely port notes throughout. It's got a beautiful long finish. Nice mouth coating, mouthfeel. I agree. It's got much more red fruit than any of the other whiskeys we've tried today, which makes perfect sense since port is typically a fortified red wine. And I really like it quite a lot. And again, I agree with Harmeet. Solid 4 sips.
That's the new sound effect because Bob wasn't at the port.
I was busy getting a bottle. Good Lord, man. Come on.
Jesus,
Can a guy get a bottle?
Yeah. You just ask us to hand it to you, man. You have to get up and go walk across.
Be careful. You might slip on the moss in the basement.
You have to ask me nicely.
I do, and it doesn't get me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I asked my wife nicely, didn't get me anywhere either. I got home too late last night. Thank you, guys.
All right, Justin, what'd you think?
While the fighters are going to the center of the room after the bell's gone off, I would say that for me it was a very subtle flavor. The port really enhances the pour rather than defines it. Like a lot of port finished items you have,
all you taste is
port. Where this one just enhances the base Irish whiskey that's there.
And that's what it should be.
So to say it in one word or less, it's balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what that's what barrel
Maury's
finishing is
just go ahead
supposed to
and
be.
agree with him.
Yeah.
It's what he wants to hear.
No. I'm saying it's a wordy way of saying it's got balance.
And
it's not heavy-handed in any way.
So many people
Maury,
they overpower it. You know,
Yeah.
they turn it from Coke to cherry Coke. It's like no. You're trying to enhance the flavor of the whiskey.
But no, I want to go back to
Subtly,
Maury's
with
comment.
nuance.
Begging for validation here. Sum it up in one word or less. Go ahead with less.
He just did.
I'll say 4 sips.
All right.
There you go. We've been drinking. I like busting people.
Yeah, can you do less than one word?
Yeah.
I'll name that tune in less than one.
Well,
note.
you can do more than one word. Or you can do less than one word on video.
Here's less than one word.
Yep.
He's telling you're number one.
I'm number one. I'm number one.
You're
Thank you
number
for
one.
that wonderful gesture.
For the whiskey, it's this finger.
Yes,
For Harmeet, it's your number one.
It's like every time I'm driving, people always tell me I'm number one. They stick their hand out. Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
What's your name?
Whatever.
I don't have that one loaded up today.
Uh-huh.
I got everything else.
I forgot. Who's doing a review? What happened here?
All right. All
right.
You gave it 4 sips. How many sips did you give it, Justin?
I gave it 4.
Me gave it 4, and I'll tell you what I got when we come back.
The destination, but baby, the whole elation of riding down this lover's avenue. As slow as the willow blows, or as fast as the whirlwind grows, we glide beneath the stars in cobalt blue. Look to the left, to the right. Keep your eyes on the road, my darling. Wondering if we're only passing through. Open roads and open windows. My hand is yours forever, sweet love. Our eyes ahead on these back roads with a view.
All right, and we're back. And we're talking about Tyroconnell and some of the whiskeys in their range. And we were talking about the 10-year port finish.
46% ABV.
There you go. It's got a nice color to it, sort of a pale gold.
You guys are always going on about color. It's because you're white. You're jealous.
I'm not white. I'm clear.
You are
Good
clear.
Lord.
But I do want to actually make a color comment. Interestingly enough,
I'm going to leave the room. Harmeet has a gun.
I did say off color.
No, they on the news they call
Spit
it
it out.
color commentary. You could be the sports guy.
Okay.
Because I left the basement yesterday. I'm actually red today.
Yeah.
So
There you
Yeah.
go.
It's called sunscreen.
yeah.
See, you shouldn't get out of the basement that
That's
often.
right. That was my mistake.
What's your
That's what happens when Gollum leaves his cave and goes into the sun. Oh, my precious, it burns. It burns.
My interesting observation, and I'm not sure whether it speaks to balance or judicious use of the cask finish, but all of their
I'm not
whiskeys,
sure it's interesting either, but
all of their whiskeys in the finished cask finish range have almost the identical color. I would expect that the port finish might have a little bit of a deeper color. Even the sherry typically picks up a little more red. They're either using them very judiciously, or that's the selection of the the casks or the types of sherry or the types of Madeira. But everything in the line has a relatively light color, with the original being the lightest. And the rest of them, though, all are very, very similar. You really can't tell them apart by color.
Let me tell.
Or they're putting in coloring agents. We don't know, because there's no restrictions in
Scotland or Ireland.
Against additives and colors.
But if they were, I'd expect it to be darker.
Right.
I would expect.
Right.
I would expect them to make them different, more different. So yeah. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble with the English today.
It also may speak to multiple use barrels, and the barrels are really tapped out and don't have much color left to give.
But you can. But that's the great thing about we don't do this in America, but in Scotland, a lot of the private bottlers, they'll use second use and third use barrels. Second use barrel will give you all the flavor of a first use barrel, just not the color. It's the third use and further on is when they're more neutral. So a second use, you can get really great flavor. You're just not going to get all that color.
I would partly agree with you.
You don't think second use barrels give as much flavor?
No, definitely not.
Well,
I mean, look at the wine
close.
industry. First fill oak versus second fill.
Well, but now when you're using a bourbon barrel, you're gonna get that bourbon flavor out of a second fill. You're not when you're talking about in the wine industry, they're talking about freshly made barrels, virgin barrels that have been charred and all
versus
that.
reuse.
Yeah.
But no, I think barrels are like tea bags, and every subsequent cup of tea is going to be lighter in both flavor and in color.
I see the look on Justin's face. He was thinking the same thing I was when he said that.
Yeah, he went to teabagging.
You just had to go there with that. Oh, goodness. Almost spilled my liquor. All right. So,
did you give a rating?
No, not yet.
Did we interrupt you again?
Yeah,
Yes,
as usual. I'm used to it at this point. So,
all right. You were talking about color. Tell us about the palate and the finish.
All right. Well, I'm getting.
Does it remind you of a beefsteak tomato?
No. I get.
Does it have the texture of
I
a
actually get a little
beefsteak
bit
tomato?
I get a little bit of a light pear on this. I get some nuts in the back end, walnuts.
Don't ever say that to me.
And I get a hint of chocolate. Way in the back.
Port and chocolate go well together.
Yeah,
I didn't get any
way in the
chocolate on
back.
this whiskey.
I got chocolate on it.
Yeah, in the back end.
Yeah. Wait, earlier you said you agreed with me. I got chocolate on this.
I'll tell you the one thing that I've noticed over
reaches.
this and over all the others we've tried so far. This one seems to have more body to it. The viscosity on this one is definitely amped up significantly over the other. Not that there's anything wrong with the others, but this one is almost. I wouldn't say oily, but it's definitely got a more thick.
More oily.
It's got more body. It's voluptuous.
Yeah,
it's a voluptuous whiskey.
Ooh, there's a good word.
Yeah.
I'm getting some orange
$20
notes.
word.
Yeah. I get
It's
some,
a curvy whiskey.
I get some orange, the spices there. I get the toffee in the back end, and the port. I think on it was well done. It's not covering anything up. It's just it's adding and it's enhancing. And
back to validating Maury balance.
Yeah, I think
it's got balance.
I think they did a very good job on the finish with this one. I mean, I've pretty much liked all of them, but I think as far as the finishes go that they've done, I think this one they're really nailing. I give it a solid 4.
Yeah.
That's classified.
All right, and we're going to move on to the last whiskey that we've got. So let me grab that one.
Where's that bottle? Let's go ahead and pour some more of that all around the table. Who's describing this last one? Is that you, Bob?
Yep, that's me. Our last one is the Tyroconnell. It's the 16 year. It's 40.
We pronounce Tyrconnell like 6 different ways.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's Tyrconnell, right?
My family was kicked out of Ireland in the 1760s. What do you want from me? 16 year, 40% ABV.
46.
Or 40, didn't I say 46?
No.
I've been drinking. 46% ABV.
You can't talk and read at the same time. That's a problem with this.
I can't chew gum and do anything at the same time either. This one...
That's your wife's birth control pill. She gives you some chewing gum.
Ouch.
This one is definitely on a different plane of the others that we've had. I don't know if it's the extra 6 years. I don't know... We're losing him. You all right?
I crack myself up and then I drink whiskey.
That's what you get.
Gotta drink it, not breathe it.
Don't breathe it, yeah.
I swear. Right into the toilet with these guys. This one is on a different plane. I mean, this is definitely serious. I mean, you can taste the character of it. You can tell where it came from, but it's definitely amped up.
This is a Scotch drinker's Irish whiskey.
This one's got some serious bones to it. On the nose, I'm picking up a lot of honey. I get some apple notes on it, and I get just a hint of cherry in the back. It's got a nice color on it, not much different from the others, but it's just slightly darker, I think.
I think this benefited from air too.
Yeah, this one's really opened up from when I first poured it, and I liked it when I first poured it, but on the palate, really much more heavy of a body to it. The spice is really nice. I get stewed apple on the back end. This is a really solid whiskey. I give this a solid 4.
That's classified.
What'd you think, Maury?
I agree with most of what you said, if not all of it. I think it was delicious. It was probably my favorite of the whole flight.
Well, allow me to retort.
Okay, then.
It was my favorite of the flight, although the port finish did rival it. This one is a serious whiskey drinker's whiskey. A lot of people are not necessarily Irish fans and will say, I'm a Scotch drinker, I'm a bourbon drinker, I'm not an Irish whiskey drinker. I think this is a whiskey that can appeal to just about anybody out there. And if you're not a big Irish whiskey drinker and you want to pick up something for your collection from the Tyroconnell collection, I think this is a perfect place to start. The 16-year-old's beautifully made. It's very complex. It's well balanced. It's got nice mouthfeel. Maybe just slightly less viscous than the port finish in terms of viscosity, but it's a beautiful whiskey, and I give it solid 4 sips. I really can't find anything wrong with it.
That's classified.
The bottle's no longer full. There's something wrong with it. All right.
I wish they sent us a bigger bottle.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Justin, what do you think?
I think if this whiskey were an actor, it would be Sean Connery. It's cheeky. It's a classic. And it had nice caramel on it.
Yeah,
he's reaching. What's going on?
You lost me on that one.
It had great mouthfeel.
Oh,
what do you know about Sean Connery and mouthfeel? I'm a little confused.
All I know, Justin is a frustrated writer who went into law.
Good Lord. Yeah,
Bob's been drinking. He can't find the right buttons anymore.
What?
Where's my ding, ding, ding?
I don't know where he's. I'm kind of speechless. I mean, I don't want to know where Sean Connery's mouthfeel comes into this. I think we found the title of this episode. So
Sean Connery's mouthfeel. Yeah. I think so.
Dear Lord. So how many sips?
I give it 4 sips.
All right.
That's classified.
All right. I disagree with you guys. This good old boy Harmeet telling you that don't listen to them. They've been drinking. First off, Justin thinks he's a writer. Maury has changed his mind on this whiskey too many times. I have to disagree right now. Did you review this, Bob? Because I wanted to disagree with you as well. No,
I'm the one that started.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, okay. I'm the one that started it.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so I got the apple notes. I got. This is the 10-year-old on steroids. This is the 10-year-old on steroids. This is the one that wins the produce steaks, but not the beefsteak tomato. But
he's still upset about those tomatoes.
I am. We don't get good tomatoes in Florida, man.
Sean Connery and tomatoes. There's the episode title. So.
Sean Connery's tomatoes.
Yeah,
there you go. But
that would be tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yeah.
Gotta always disagree, don't you? Yeah.
No, I don't always disagree.
No,
but this time
about
yeah. I mean, the honey notes were there. The apple that you said was there. I got
so you loved it or you hate
fruit.
it? I'm still trying to get to the punchline.
I don't hate it. I just don't think it's as good as what you guys think it is. I think I think that port really outclassed this whiskey.
You've been drinking.
I have been drinking, and I frankly, disclaimer here: I'm not an Irish
Frank.
whiskey fan. Frank, wow, I forgot I've been drinking. Good old boy, frankly. This is the thing with whiskey. I prefer Scotch, and you guys know that. Irish whiskey to me has been. A friend of mine said one time whiskey tea because it's triple distilled. But this is a double distilled whiskey. There is supposed to be more character here. I didn't find that on the 10-year-old. And on the 16-year-old, I do find it. So I agree with you. This is kind of the Scotch drinker's whiskey, right? Irish whiskey, right?
Again, it's not going to...
Could you use a little water in your whiskey?
When I drink whiskey, I drink whiskey. And when I drink water, I drink water.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm putting water in this now just because you played that damn note.
It's not going to replace your Scotch collection.
No.
It's going to be an adjunct to your collection. It's going to be for a day you feel like drinking something Irish, and whether that's on St. Paddy's Day once a year or you've got somebody over wants an Irish whiskey, this is a whiskey you won't be embarrassed to serve.
There are other Irish whiskeys I do like. They just tend to be more expensive, you know?
Well, we don't know what the price of this is.
We don't? Oh.
What is the price of this?
Do we know?
I don't know.
60.
Have I seen this in South Florida? Tyroconnell? Really?
I don't know.
Frankly, I haven't seen it.
So how could you say you like ones that are more expensive when we
I was introduced to this
because I know this isn't $300.
I was introduced as
well.
I know
not fair to compare.
I know you're
16-year whiskey.
Yeah. Well, I also look. I'm not naming other brands during a show that we're doing about Tyrconnell, okay? But there are one other brand from Ireland that I really enjoy, and we're not going to name it today. But okay,
Fred's. It's Fred's.
Fred's
Begins with an M.
Yeah.
Huh? No, it doesn't begin with an M.
Begins with a Z.
Zed.
Zima.
Zed.
Zima.
Zed. No.
He's a Zima lover.
I'm going to say it.
He's a giant hoard of it in his cellar.
I just look. I think this is good whiskey, but of the ones we tasted today, that port finish was where it was at.
All right. So how many sips are you going to give it?
I haven't finished my rating, dude. So
I'm still trying to figure out why he keeps calling you Frank.
What's your name, scumbag?
The nose. This is the problem with it. The problem is the nose promises so much it falls down on the palate. So the palate I got, it's smooth entry, honey, got a lot of yellow fruit, a little bit of apple. The finish was a little bittersweet, and it reminds me kind of more of like an Indian whiskey, if anything. I remember the Paul John Brilliance.
Yes.
This kind of reminds me of Paul John Brilliance.
Then you should love it.
I like Paul John Brilliance better. That was more intense. This is a little too subtle. This is whiskey tea to me, and I only gave it 3 sips. Damn it.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, wine enthusiast says this is $100 a bottle.
Well, it's not worth $100 a bottle to me.
I think compared to Yellow Spot, Green Spot, which is competitor of this.
Are we
market
comparing
sphere,
things now?
That this is a good value.
I like Redbreast. There you go. I said it. Redbreast.
Did you try my Redbreast last night?
If you want to see Redbreast, have him take his shirt off. He had no sunscreen on the boat.
Actually, I did enjoy the 15-year-old quite a bit, but I like that 12-year-old cast strength even better.
I don't have it. I have what I have.
I have it. I also have the 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's your more expensive one that we're talking about.
I'm not aware of the price on those. The
21 you don't want to know.
No.
It's ridiculous. They've got so many barrels in warehouse, but they keep putting that price up there. Did everybody review this one?
Yeah.
Mr. Connell, are we done with this?
Yeah. Well,
Listen,
what did everybody think? I mean, overall.
I think they're well-made whiskeys. I love the fact that they're experimenting with cask finish. We really haven't seen that on the Irish whiskey market. I think the double distilling instead of triple.
I really applaud them for that, dude. But I just think that maybe their distillation, they're still going a little bit too light.
I would love for them to try a single distilled version to see how much original flavor would be left.
I don't think anybody does a single distilled whiskey, do they?
No, they're all double.
I just think it would be interesting.
You can't get it high enough.
I would point out that the stills that this came off of, that the distillery that actually made this, made that Irish whiskey that I got, that you guys tried from the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, that single barrel, the one that was, the one that God shone on, one of the finest whiskeys I've ever had, and absolutely the finest Irish whiskey I have ever had in my entire life. That
same
thing
stills?
Same still. Cooley.
Are these, but yeah, I know Cooley, but are Cooley, these are all pot still, all copper pot stills, or are they using
pot?
They're not using combination pot and column?
No column. Yep. No column.
No, traditional Irish whiskey. So it came from the same place. So yeah, these guys have shown they can make some amazingly good whiskey.
I'd like to see the 16-year at cask strength. I think that'd be a winner.
Oh, absolutely.
More than the single.
For me, the winner still is that port cask, but I'm still sipping on the 16-year. I'm not pouring it out by any means. But I can't give it 4
I wouldn't let you
sips.
pour it out. I'd shoot you and take it before I let you pour it out.
Could we do that now?
You could just take it without shooting me.
We got Sean
Always
Connery
violence
to do
with
it.
these guys.
Just hit him with a tomato. Well, that's all the time we have today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can catch all of our episodes online as well as on SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, PRX, and Spreaker, our native media host. iTunes, Google Play, and our own Android app are the easiest ways to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Sip Suds Smokes on iTunes or in the Google Play Store. Be sure to tap subscribe, and the show will always be on your phone. We love your feedback, and you can reach us online at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every day at Sip Suds Smokes, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. You can also interact with the thousands of other fans on those social media platforms. Do us a favor, and please take the time to rate this episode if you're listening to us online. It's a big help to us, and we get to see your feedback as well. Want to thank our co-host. Thank you, Maury.
Thank you, Bob. Always a pleasure to be here in the basement, although it is a little bit damp today. Perhaps we can put in a dehumidifier.
Yeah, well, that's not happening. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Bob.
And thank you, Harm.
Today it was a pleasure to be here, even though you fed me Irish whiskey instead of Scotch. But hey, thank you.
I'll give you a tomato. So
Tomato.
always
Better
gotta
not be a
disagree.
beefsteak.
For Sip Suds and Smokes, this is Made Man Bob, and we thank you for joining us. And remember, life is too short to drink cheap whiskey.
It is never too short to drink cheap whiskey. There is good cheap whiskey out there. Don't listen to this man. He is steering you wrong.
Says the man who's concerned about tomatoes.
Life's too short to drink bad whiskey.
That's exactly right.
That's
Maury.
right, Maury.
Fine.
It's quite pungent.
Yep.
This has been a one-tan hand production of Sip Suds and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.